episode 4 of my Formula 1 career. My name is Ian, and we start in this episode in Free Practice 1 in China. We are 2 weeks on from the disappointment of Australia, my home race, and it didn't start out that great here in China because the very first session was a little bit of light rain. I was about to say it's soaked. It wasn't too bad, but we did require the intermediate tyres. It was only 18 degrees. Now, we did start with some good news this race weekend because the durability of the power unit and the gearbox have been improved back in the factory by 10%, which will really help us later on when penalties start coming into play later on in this season. So coming out onto the wet weather, we just started doing a few exploratory laps. We didn't want to be putting the car right on the ragged edge in this wet weather. We just wanted to go out, see what how the car handled, because I do have a very low downforce setup on this car, which is perfect for this circuit because of that really long back straight and even the long main straight as well. But in the rain, it doesn't work out as well because, you know, low downforce, it's very, very difficult to get that power down from the wheels onto the track. So we were slipping and sliding a bit all over the place, so our time was well down. Now, because of the poor conditions, the only thing we managed to actually do was the track acclimatization program. I was well off the pace, but we did manage to complete it successfully. But of course, it doesn't really matter about lap time, as it's really only this is the only rain that is forecast for the whole race weekend. So I didn't actually go out again. I only sort of did the few sort of 5-6 laps of the track acclimatization and a couple of the exploratory laps at the start of the session. Didn't go out again. The rain did dissipate with about 10 minutes left in the session, so some of the other drivers did manage to go out and set times on the softs and the mediums. We only have 2 sets of mediums, which we had to return. We had to return one of the sets at the end of this session, and we got the other one reserved for the race. So I never actually got to use the medium tyre, which, having this rain on that first session, did make things a little bit tricky for us. But it obviously wasn't to be, because when the afternoon session came around, Free Practice 2, it was like a brand new day. It was cloudy, 26 degrees, which was 8 degrees warmer than what we were experiencing in Free Practice 1. And we did go out again for some early exploratory laps with actually Carlos Sainz. He was the only other one on the track. He was a little way ahead of us. And we didn't do too badly. Again, I just wanted to, get some rubber down on the track just to sort of see how good it was before we started hitting all the programs that we needed to do. I like to do 2-3 programs in that first session if possible, but unfortunately we only managed to get the track acclimatization done. So after doing a couple of exploratory laps, we did go out and do the tyre management program, which thankfully didn't hurt us too badly, because on the very first lap, as you will see, we actually ran wide in turn 1, but thankfully it didn't do any damage to the car. But with the tyre management program out of the way, about the midway point of the session, we did go out yet again, and this time completed the fuel management program, which we passed with flying colours. We did manage to set a 140.4 just after the fuel management, because we completed it so quickly. We had a bit of extra fuel left in the tank, so we managed to set a decent lap time, as I say, a 140.4 behind our teammate Nico Hulkenberg, funnily enough. But about 15 minutes after that, we did complete the quali setup as well. Now, the temperature sort of dropped a little bit. It dropped down to about 26 degrees by this point, which is similar to what the expected weather for the qualifying session the following day. So we managed to go out and do the qualifying setup program, and we did a 138.5 on our second lap of it, which was estimated 7th, well up from what we were expected. We were only expected 14th, and we were 7 places above that. It was actually the 4th best in the session at that time, and we were 11th quickest in the speed trap, and rather interestingly, we were actually 7/10ths up on Sergio Perez. Now, Perez is someone, he's sort of similar to us in terms of pace, so to be 7/10ths ahead of him, again, it's only a practice session, so you can't sort of rely on that time, as being gospel, but it certainly gave us a good feeling going into Saturday with Free Practice 3. The 60-minute Free Practice 3 session on the Saturday, we only had the race strategy to do. It was similar weather, which exactly how FP2 started, and rather helpfully, it's the same weather that we're expecting in the race, which is cloudy, 28 degrees Celsius. So we managed to go out and do the race strategy without too much difficulty at all, really. We absolutely flew through it. which was really, really good because we set the third fastest time 15 minutes into the session, so we still had 45 minutes to go, and we managed to do that with a 1:38.4, which was amazing stuff for us. But rather helpfully, we had the whole track to ourselves, and we didn't really have to worry too much about the other cars around us. During the race strategy program, we were expected to be hitting around 1:40.6. That's what our sort of target. So I was up by 1.2 seconds for all 5 laps. As you can see there on the graph, it was a fantastic performance in that race strategy. It really, really worked out well for us there. But of course, all this hard work in the free practice sessions means nothing if we can't convert in the qualifying session, which was, of course, on Saturday afternoon. We had a target of 14th, and we managed to come out 3rd, but we did let Verstappen pass on the outlap because we figure he's going to be quicker than us, so let him get a little bit further up the road so we don't have him right on our tail the whole way around, particularly if I sort of make a mistake or anything like that. And we did go around with a 1:38.8, which wasn't too bad. If you remember back, we did do the qualifying strategy in free practice 2, the qualifying program, and we did do a 1:38.5, so we were 3/10 off that time that we did in free practice 2. So I knew there was a little bit of time to make up, but we sort of thought we may have been safe, but unfortunately that was not to be. So we had to go out again with just over 4 minutes left in the session, and this time we found 6/10 through turns 9 and 10, I believe that is, which really, really helped us and kept us safe because, of course, we were sitting in 12th place, and by finding those extra 6/10, and we were actually up even more at one point, but eventually fell away to get through with a 1:38.2, which bumped us up into 8th place before eventually falling down to 9th, which was more than enough to see ourselves into Q2. But rather interestingly, our teammate Nico Hulkenberg was knocked out in Q1. He only managed a 1:39 dead, so we were 8/10 up on his time. And joining him is Lance Stroll, Stoffel Van Dorn, Pascal Wehrlein, and Marcus Ericsson. Unfortunately, Q2 didn't start off quite as well as we finished Q1 because we had a leaky hydraulic system in the brakes, which required just over 7 minutes of repair time. So initially, what we were thinking of doing was actually doing the opposite to what we did in Australia. We were hoping to go out, do a stint on the softs, and then if we weren't happy, go out again right at the end of the session and go on the super softs just to try and squeeze through. We were hoping to start on the softs again to put us on a slightly different strategy to the cars around us, but by the time we managed to fix the faulty brakes, we didn't have enough time. We may have been able to squeeze 2 laps in, we may have been able to sort of do an outlap, do a lap, bring it in, quickly refuel, and then go out again, but I didn't want to take that risk, so we could only rely on the one run right at the death. So we had to sort of sit there and watch everyone else just setting great times. Lewis Hamilton with a 1:37.6, so if we're within a second of that, I'll be very, very happy, because that's 1:38.6, and remember, in quali program in FP2, we did set a 1:38.5. So we go out, and thankfully we didn't have too much trouble with traffic. We did have to let Fernando Alonso pass just before we hit that back straight, but we didn't have to worry about anything else, and it allowed us to really back right off on that real hairpin corner, the sort of penultimate corner, and before we ramped up the fuel mix and went for our lap as we attempted to get into Q3 for the second time in as many races. 1:38.7 is just enough to see us into Q3. We got through by the skin of our teeth. Barely. We were 0.06 up on Esteban Ocon, who, remember, he was the one that knocked us out in Australia. So I kind of think that's a little bit of karma for the Frenchman there by knocking him out into Q2, and joining him is Carlos Sainz, Romain Grosjean, Danny Kvyat, and Kevin Magnussen. As we turn our attentions now to Q3, we only get one stab at this because we only get the one extra set of super softs, which of course the quickest tyre this weekend. And so what we had to do is we did the exact same thing as we did in Australia. We sat back and watched as everyone else went around and set times. Lewis Hamilton had provisional pole with a 1:36.4, and the slowest was Fernando Alonso with a 1:39.3. But with just under 4 minutes left in the session, we decided now's our time, and we went out for our only lap in Q3. So just like Australia as well, I'll keep quiet now so you can watch the lap in all its glory, and we'll find out where we qualify at the end. There we have it, a 1:37.4 puts us provisionally in P5 ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, but there's a lot of cars behind us that are still setting their times, including both the Red Bulls of Ricciardo and Verstappen, and that's who ultimately pipped us at the post right at the end as Sebastian Vettel set pole with a 1:35.6, and the fact that Fernando Alonso managed to drag that McLaren all the way around this circuit up into P10 is an amazing testament to that guy's ability. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for the race where we are starting in P7, well ahead of our teammate.
Ian, P7, your target was actually 14th, so congratulations on making it into Q3. You'll actually start the race on P5, seeing as Sebastian and Max both have 10-place grid penalties.
Really?
Yeah, we've just got confirmation. How do you feel about that?
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, it's I wasn't expecting to be up in P5, that's for sure. But P7, I'm really delighted with it, particularly after what happened in Australia. To carry on, where I left off in the previous qualifying was really, really good.
And Hulkenberg never made it out of Q1, and here you are starting on the third row. Are you just more comfortable with the setup of the car, or do you feel like Nico's struggling a little bit this weekend?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I believe there is a problem with the car, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. We weren't expected to reach Q3 anyway, to be honest. It was a bit of a stretch to reach that far. So we're sort of expected to be knocked out in Q2. So the fact that he was down in 17th isn't that bad at the end of the day. There's a lot of work for him to do, obviously, but yeah, from what I understand, I believe there is a crack in the floor, but I'm not. Yeah, don't quote me on that one because I'm just not sure on it. So yeah, look, at the end of the day, it's disappointing, but we weren't really expected to get anything out of qualifying. So the fact that he didn't, it's not a slight on him at all.